Talk to him.
Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode. Whether the winters were left in the cold.
What's the return on investment for dating a modern woman? What's the return on investment? Let me say that. Let me get that queued up, man. What is the return on investment for dating a modern woman or modern women? So this is a question that was posed in a conversation I was having with a buddy of mine. And he was saying that, largely, yeah, he, would like to be in a relationship, but he finds it hard to find women that exhibit certain characteristics and values that he's looking for. And I was like, well, I said, don't you feel like there's, you could take the patient approach, get with somebody that you got a level of alignment with, and y'all kind of, grow together, mold, mold yourselves, woo, woo. And he was pretty much saying like, well, he don't really want to put in that investment just to find out somebody's not pliable or, can't really be molded or led, which brought me to the question. When you use the word investment, it made me think about that, because when you look at it for men, from the male side of it, women are most definitely an investment for sure. Not that men aren't an investment for women. It's not what we're talking about. So we can get to that, but from the male side of it, women are definitely an investment for men. Not only a energy investment, a time investment, it's also a resource investment. And with that last piece being factored in, if you're a person who's going to date from a traditional model, then that resource piece of it, becomes taxing if you're dating around, right? So sometimes when you get to a certain point in your life, for some men, like my buddy I was talking to, he was just saying he in a space where he kind of wait and see a little bit before he even figure out if he want to make that type of an investment. So I said, well, then how do you take that approach? What if it's a chick that you see in the grocery store that you may or may not ever see again? He's like, well, I take my chances. I was like, damn. He's like, yeah, if I'm supposed to talk to her, I'll bump into her again. Maybe we'll be in the store at the same time or something like that. And but yeah, and then also too, I think the main difference from me talking to one of my homeboys about it and him having that approach is like he can afford to not sweat it. I'm not finna divulge his age or nothing like that, but he's just like, I got all the time in the world. You know what I mean? And it's kind of true for men. We do have time. We got time. So I guess I asked, like, what would make a man want to get out the quote unquote get out the game sooner than later, in today's dating climate? That's why the term modern woman is there. What's the return on investment for a man who's, deciding to court and eventually pursue to marry a modern woman? What is, and when I say so we're speaking in general, right? So by and large, what's the standard model modern woman come with as far as like character is concerned? Because physical, attributes are everybody's preferences in regards to that, especially when it comes to us men. Men are different. Like, we don't all like the same chick. It's men that like women that are very, very petite, 110 pounds. And then you got men that like them thick. You got men that prefer BBWs. So it's not even a physical thing. But from the modern woman, as far as a morals, principles, etiquette, like what comes with that by and large, I think is the question. And so I don't know. I think the answer used to be something that men felt was worth the chase. I think the answer used to be something that men felt was worth the chase, because Men would pursue. They would pursue. They were asking to be married. They were courting. You used to have to tell a female you love her to get some of that cat. You used to have to tell her you love her. That's not the case no more though. That's not the case no more. If you want to see her, halfway undressed, you could just go to the gram for most of them, and you could see most of what you would have had to work to see, many years ago. So it's pictures that get posted on the gram daily that you used to have to do a month worth of spitting game to get sent to your phone privately. It's a fact. So the climate is totally different. So it's just like when you ask, what are you getting? A lot of times the answer to that is probably a little bit unfortunate, which is why you see a lot of guys like tapping out as far as like getting too serious, making advances. I'm seeing a lot of trending information going around about, conversations happening about why men are no longer approaching women in public. I even saw a post of a female talking about how she goes to these dating events and men never show up to the dating events. It's always just full of women and stuff. And I think part of the reason why you see a lot of men tapping out on like heavy pursuit and trying to like really, really invest. I keep coming back to that word invest because we're talking about ROI, which is return on investment. For those who don't know, I think why you see a lot of people tapping out in regards to like heavily investing is because they feel like the return is not, it's a bad investment. I had posed a question on my story on IG the other day about like asking dudes. I put it on my YouTube too, on my shorts, asking men that weren't married why they're not married. And I was asking people to answer. And one dude broke it down from a business standpoint. He was like, I don't sign contracts that don't benefit me, point blank and simple. And I had to think about it like, damn, does that contract benefit him? And I mean, if we got to be objective about it from the male side of it, no. Not not unless he's, in a situation where, some reverse hypergamy going on. But other than that, nah, not for real. And that's why I think a lot of people are adopting the state of mind where it's like men marry for love, women marry for business. That's what they say. I don't know if I wholeheartedly believe in that. I still believe there's round the way women who, came up with some foundational principles and they kind of, maintain a certain level of discretion through the years where a lot of mistakes typically get made and they end up coming out fairly unscathed. I do think those women are around. I do. But you got to do some filtering. You got to do some threading through, some sorting through, for sure. For sure. Because again, it's a big investment. And so if all you ask in return for your investment is cooperation, consistent intimacy, and for a lot of men, probably, some food for the most part. If that's all you ask in return for, breaking your back and making sure everybody's straight, everything protected, all the threads are knitted, sewed, tied up, all the staples are clipped down, you know what I mean? Checking the boxes. If that's all you asking in return, when that's too much to ask, it becomes too much to invest. I think for a lot of people. With me, I try to have these conversations as objectively as possible because it's in regards to, it's really about cracking the codes, right? So that's why y'all will hear me posing more questions on top of the question, because it's really just giving us all something to think about. We can come up with it together. That's why the chat is so important. The comment section is so important, because I love the breakdowns. I love to hear these breakdowns on what y'all think about these things. but what is the return on investment? And for the men, get into the comments and tell me, do you think that it's a solid investment? Like, to if you're a single man, you got your affairs in order, and you feel like, oh, it would be good to have somebody to share life with. Do you feel like at this point in time, courtship and like jumping off the porch and trying to like lock in with one is a good investment by and large? Do you feel like you rolling the dice, or do you feel like the odds are ever in your favor? I would love to hear y'all response to that in the comments for sure. But yeah, man, all in all, my final take on the return on investment in the dating market is just, it depends on your process. If you have a poor vetting process, poor discernment, you know what I mean, it's going to be rough for you. The return on investment going to be trash. It's going to be 1,000% interest rate. You know what I mean? But if you got some discernment, a little bit of patience, and some discipline, I feel like you can make out good. I do. I feel like you could come out with a really good, appeasing result for yourself.
Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode. Weathered the winters when left in the cold. Hardened my heart, now hardened the